and our special guest, Mariano Big Dog Mendoza.
We are here at the Tap Studios with none other than Mariano Big Dog Mendoza. That's right.
Hey everybody, Matt Birch here from the TV show Operation Refill. Big shout out to my brother Mariano Mendoza.
Hey, welcome back everybody. My guest tonight is UFC fighter Mariano Big Dog Mendoza. Please help me welcome Mariano to the show.
Hello you guys, my name is Mariano Big Dog. For all you guys that do know who I am, I'm a former world champion MMA fighter, actor, model, video game guy. I've done everything. I'm a Navy and Army veteran. And this is my near COVID death story.
Now, Mario Mariano is the guy that the Crips and the Bloods call him Sir.
And I called him Mr. and Sir, and look at this guy, 275 pounds.
I am officially declaring a national emergency.
We need to do a lot more. We have to stay ahead of the game in preventing this.
Our testing capacity is nowhere near what it needs to be.
The U.S. could soon be the global epicenter of the outbreak.
Efforts to administer the coronavirus vaccine are ramping up in the United States.
The battle against the virus has reached a new milestone.
The number of deaths are nearing 1 million.
I don't remember the first 3 or 4 months. My wife remembers most of that. She was there every day, faithful. I'm just so grateful that she advocated and fought for me. I just remember, like, I felt like it was a dream or I was asleep. And I told my wife, how long have I been here? I thought it was a week, but it was 4 months.
My name is Dawn Mendoza. I'm Mariano Mendoza's wife. Well, I guess I got COVID first, unfortunately, December 26th, 2021. Right after Christmas. I just had a fever. I had a fever for 5 days. My daughter got sick 2 or 3 days after I did. Then Mariano got sick. So by December 31st, we were all sick on New Year's Eve. And we really couldn't do much because we were all feeling really sick. But we actually didn't know that we had COVID because I had taken a test and it was negative. That happens sometimes. So we didn't even know. But we were all sick, but like functioning. We were okay.
When did you finally decide I need to get to the hospital? You know?
I got COVID late in the pandemic, January 9th. All I remember, I was having a hard time breathing. I woke up in the morning and I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. I didn't want to wake up my wife. I drove myself to the emergency at St. Jude. And next thing you know, very limited things I remember the first couple of days. I even did a video. My wife said, I don't remember. Next thing you know, I was unconscious. I was under for 4 months in a coma and life support. And I was not vaccinated. And I said, well, I haven't got COVID and it's been 2 years. And I was careful. I don't know where I got it. I don't know how I got it. I just know I got it. And I think it was what was the new version of the COVID?
Omicron?
Omicron?
Maybe.
I think
There's been so many.
Right.
There's Omicron.
They kind of guessed that it was Omicron.
Yeah, we guessed it was Omicron. And I had heard from the doctors that said everybody's getting COVID. And it's crazy because I was healthy. I was in the gym every day, 5 days a week, doing cardio, kickboxing. The only pre-existing condition I have right now is high blood pressure, insomnia, anxiety, and PTSD. But I don't have heart issues. I don't have diabetes. None of these, and hardly ever get sick. My wife got COVID and she recovered, and we thought she was going to be bad because she has some problems too. She's a cancer survivor and, 1 kidney and no gallbladder and all these things. And I'm the one that got hit. And it almost took me out.
But I'd been in bed for 5 days. So by the time New Year's Eve hit, I was feeling kind of okay. But I really thought I got the worst of it because I was the one in bed and just the fever and aches and chills, and I felt horrible. My daughter got better in 2 or 3 days, but then Mariano got sick, and it just didn't seem like he was as sick as me. He was walking, eating, breathing, talking, doing fine until around like January 7th. And he was doing everything he could. I mean, the frustrating thing I felt is that he was so proactive. He had gone to the VA to get a test. He'd gone to urgent care. He'd gone to St. Jude. He'd done all these different things. And they told him I remember when he called on the 1st and he says, "Oh, I'm positive for COVID." And I was like, "Oh no," because I didn't even know that I had COVID, but it's just because he got positive, then we figured that's what I had. But he had called his doctor and had a virtual appointment, and he got this appointment in Irvine for this monoclonal infusion, but nothing worked. But the frustrating thing is that during that period, no one listened to his lungs, no one listened to his vitals, and I don't know why they didn't. I guess doctors just didn't want to see patients when they were positive, but that was a little frustrating. So by January 8th, he just had this cough, like this persistent cough that just wouldn't go away. And then on January 9th, on Sunday, I was still feeling kind of sick and he didn't want to wake me. But when I woke up, he was gone and he'd driven himself to the hospital. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he had texted me and called, and I'd missed the call because I was asleep. And then I called him and I told him, "Why didn't you wake me up?" And he was crying. He's like, "Oh, I'm in the hospital." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, why didn't you wake me up?" I felt horrible that he didn't wake me up. I just, but he's like, "Why don't wait?" And he starts crying. I didn't want to wake you up because I needed to go to work the next day and all that. So he was in the emergency room for 2 days and they finally admitted him. He doesn't apparently remember very much. I didn't end up going to work. I stayed home for that week because I thought, okay, I was just so worried about him. I just didn't know what to do. And I couldn't see him. I was calling the doctors and the nurses and trying to figure out, but it doesn't seem like he remembers very much of that. Like he was already sort of unconscious at that point. Because I told him, "Well, I talked to you. I had dropped food off. Did this." And he doesn't seem to remember very much. But on January 18th, I got the call. And then they told me, "We have to intubate." And I could hear everything over the phone and say, "You need to encourage him." And he doesn't remember any of that. And I just started crying. I couldn't even speak. I was just like, I just couldn't talk. I was just crying. I mean, it went on for like 5 minutes and they said, "Oh, then we have to go." And then they cut me off and that was it. That's all I heard. That's all I saw. That's all I knew. And I just, I didn't really know what to do.
My wife was planning a funeral. That's what the doctor said, he's tonight, he's doing really, really bad. And we give him a 5% chance.
The next day they called me and told me that his kidneys had failed. And then that was another horrible phone calls to make, which I couldn't make them all because people were crying and screaming and it was very painful to even tell people what was going on. At that point, the doctor said he had a 5% chance. So I just pretty much lost it. I was out of work for about 7 weeks just to deal with all the stress and the pressure and just trying to understand what was going on. My heart was broken. I mean, there's just really no other way to describe how that felt. I was grieving the loss, and I didn't know if I'd be planning a funeral or the fight of our life. I just had no idea. So it's a really very weird place to be, a scary place to be. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I just didn't know what to do. I had no idea what to do because I couldn't see him. They wouldn't let me see him for like a month. And then within that time period where I couldn't get in there, his lungs collapsed. He had an infection. He went sepsis. His heart rate was wonky. So all those things they were trying to balance out, trying to keep him comfortable. He was on 100% oxygen. But in the midst of all of that, within a week or two, he started like making some little recoveries, but then he'd make kind of like 2 steps forward, 10 steps back, 2 steps forward, 10 steps back. So it was like a roller coaster. And then at some point, like 3 or 4 weeks in, the doctor's like, well, he's kind of beating the odds at this point. And I was like, oh, okay, so that's good. There was a little glimmer of hope.
This is the most fearful and scared I've been in my whole life. I've had some near-death moments, but this one was, everybody calls it a miracle. It's a miracle from God because that's the only way I can put it. In a coma for 28 days on life support for 3 weeks or something like that. I don't know the whole details. And I had chest tubes on my side, and then I went back to ICU. I got an infection. I got problems with my lungs. I got an infection with my lungs. And just everything that can go wrong went wrong. My wife even said I had mini strokes when I was under. I was on 100% breathing. The machine was breathing for me. And it just, all I remember is waking up and I was nervous and scared. They had to restrain me because I was just going so crazy. And I just like, Lord, I was afraid. I was afraid for my life, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I was trying to talk and nothing would come out. I was like, and try to talk to my wife. And that's the scariest thing. Just being changed and having to be fed, and my hands were like this. I had neuropathy. My feet were tingling. I couldn't even hold the spoon. I had to learn how to eat. I had to learn how to walk.
He suffered, obviously, with the COVID, but the COVID caused lots of fevers up and down. He had an infection, the collapsed lungs, multiple strokes all over his brain. A brain injury from the lack of oxygen. So that was really scary. I remember thinking to myself, gosh, you know, like, I know the impact that strokes can have on someone. So I was very concerned about the long-term effects of that. And normally when somebody has a stroke, you have immediate intervention. You do the therapy, you know, they get the OT, the PT, they get the speech therapy, they get everything. And I'm like, oh, we can't even treat the strokes, you know, that just has to, I guess, left to its own devices at this point. So it's really a miracle that there's really not a lot of residual left over from that. I feel like kind of just a little bit of memory loss, like short-term memory. He struggles with a little bit, but that's very minor considering. So between, the collapsed lung, the kidney failure, he was on dialysis, the strokes, the infections, the fevers. I mean, oh my gosh, it's really a miracle that he's sitting here with us, because what are the odds, you know? Like he said, like everything that could go wrong went wrong.
It was like a nightmare, to be honest. And like I said, I don't know of anybody I went on Google and COVID, anybody in the hospital for 8 months recovering from near COVID death. Nobody. I've not seen not one story like mine. And I just know it's a miracle. And God said, I'm not done with you. And this is going to be a story of hope, inspiration. And so, you know what? There is a God. I don't care what your religion is. You have to believe that there is a God.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard. I mean, it was agonizing. It was painful. I mean, I would wake up in the middle of the night, like I couldn't breathe. I wasn't sleeping. I would fall asleep for an hour or two and wake up, and I would just wake up going, like I couldn't breathe. And I would look over and he was gone. I just sobbed. Like I've never cried that. I cried so hard. I thought I was gonna die from a heartbreak. I mean, I don't know if you've ever cried that much, but it was so painful that I thought, God, I don't know how I don't know how I'm gonna handle this, because when I cried, I was sobbing so hard, my body hurt. Like, I know what it means to have a real heartbreak. I know why people die from a heartbreak, a heartache, heartbreak. You know, it's just like, it was heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching. It was just the most painful thing that I've ever felt in my life, because it's your soulmate. And when your soulmate's ripped from you like that, it's just something it's excruciating.
Is there any point where the doctors asked you to that they wanted to pull the plug or kind of like give up on him?
Mm-hmm.
And it was up to you to like not do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, basically 2 weeks in, the social worker and the case manager were talking about care and comfort care, and it's the kind thing to do, the right thing to do, to let him go, that he would have no quality of life. That's what they were pushing, you know? And so that definitely was hard to hear. It was just a lot of pressure to make that kind of decision that I wasn't ready to make, you know?
My wife was just, her life was messed up and she had to take time off. And she was there every day, man. I mean, even people at the hospital, like, I don't know any woman that would do that for the husband. And I go, well, I got an amazing wife. And I said, hey, you know, to death do us part. And that's what I mean to this day. She's been my lifeline. And next to God, she was there with my daughter and a few other people. And I just met so many nurses and doctors, and St. Jude and Kidder saved my life. And that's all I have to say. Like I said, the first 4 months, I don't remember. My wife remembers everything very vividly. She was in anxiety, going to depression. She couldn't sleep. She had to take all this time off work. And it was just a blessing that she was able to do that. She's a speech therapist. And her time ran out. I'm doing way better now. I would say I'm probably 80%. And I still get moments of depression, anxiety, moments where I just cry and break down. And it's just your life flashing in front of you. And I'm just grateful for all the people that were there and encouraged me and helped me, and all the friends that I met.
I'm Alan Cosio. I met Mariano at the rehab center after my hospitalization, and we became really good friends. A lot of tears, a lot of laughter, a lot of spiritual talk. And I like to call him the COVID miracle man.
My name is Jaime Aguirre. I'm a physical therapist assistant. I met Mariano when he was brought to our hospital and was first coming out of his coma. He was still pretty sedated and needed to be sedated at the time because he was just jittery and combative and agitated.
Hey, Jeff. Yeah, I mean, he was just really, really restless and all over the place, and I'm just concerned that, you know, he's having withdrawals from medication, and it's like every time they try to wean him, he just doesn't tolerate it. So the doctor wanted to lower the sedation, but then it's like he's moving all over the place. It's just crazy. I don't know.
Fingertips? You want me to take that off? I can't take that off right now. It's checking your oxygen. Mariano, you have to stay in the bed. You have to stay safe in the bed. It's not safe for you to get out of the bed right now. I'm making a little video so you can see later on where you were and where you're going. So you can see all the progress. And right now you're hooked up to this tube. You have the trach, but you're getting better. You've been on the oxygen for 31 hours. I mean, on the T-bar, so you've been breathing on your own for 31 hours. I can't get you a knife.
Yeah.
Oh, behind me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't get you the knife right now, Mariano. You're going to hurt yourself.
Yes. Baby, I'm fine. Please.
I know, I can't do that, babe.
Slowly, he started to regain his cognition, and we started working with him, trying to get him moving and walking and all that. At first, he was barely able to sit and hold his balance, and slowly over time, we were able to get him to stand. taking steps, and eventually walking.
And then he was combative in the beginning, and that was mostly because he was kind of disoriented of where he was, of what was happening, you think? Or?
Usually that's the case, because usually patients that are on ventilations, when they start slowly getting out of that, I would say that situation where they're starting to wake up a little bit here and there, they get agitated. They don't know what's what's around them, what's their surroundings. They tend to start being agitated. They tend to start pulling on things, kicking things, and they end up, being restrained for their safety as well as staff.
Okay, and so were you there when he kicked someone in the chest?
I was not. He was not on my schedule at that time. But during lunch, that's when we heard somebody got kicked, and it wasn't surprising. I knew it was going to happen one day, but we just didn't know when it was going to happen. And I guess luckily it wasn't me that got kicked. So, but it was a funny story.
Did you notice like he had a good attitude about the whole thing, or once he kind of could understand what was happening, I guess?
From the very beginning, he seemed like he was pretty motivated to participate. Like I said at the beginning, he was confused and still agitated. So there was times where he fought us. One time, me and another coworker of mine went in there, and he was on restraints because he was so agitated. And as soon as we released him from his restraints, Mariano gave my coworker a swift kick in the chest. Being from, I think he was a mixed martial artist, and we could tell he was.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
All right. So I work with Mariano here. He was in the ICU before getting to his current level right now, and at that time he had restraints on. So me and our other fellow PTA were working with him, and we were trying to let go of the restraints. And Mariano at the time was still very strong, still trying to get up, and he had a restraint on his leg, and we loosened it, and he was able to get his leg and give me a good kick right here. And I said, wow, you definitely are an MMA fighter for sure. So it took me a second or 2 or 3 minutes to kind of gather myself. But yeah, glad to see him here. He's doing great, and yeah, love you, brother.
Thank you, bro. Always encourage me, always pushing me.
Thank you.
Come on, man. Even when I feel like I was going to pass out, they always just push me. And that's why I said every day is a new beginning.
Now, I'm going to ask something a little more controversy off subject, but we might or might not use it.
Sure.
What do you think about COVID? Do you think it's man-made, or do you think it came from a wet market in China?
My take on the whole COVID thing was, I think it was a vehicle to use to control people. Now, that's not to say that people didn't get it. I've had family members that had it, and I had an aunt was very active. She was elderly, but she was very active, and she succumbed to it. And we were shocked, actually, quite frankly. And I know of other people that had friends and relatives that had passed from it. But the question that I question about this whole thing is, where did it come from, and how did this happen? Here we send spacecraft to the deepest reaches of space, and we can't figure out where this thing came from. So I believe that there's some other intrigue in it. And I think it'll all come out some years down the road. We're already starting to see effects now.
Do you think it's a miracle that someone that was in the hospital as long as he was is almost back to normal, or was able to survive it all?
It is. It's a miracle because there was a lot of patients that came in that were diagnosed from COVID. There were a few percentage that actually made it through. We've had a lot of cases that a lot of patients never made it. It was a very, very difficult time where everywhere, in all the hospitals, and in my field, with physical therapy, we see that we do as much as we can to get them back to their prior level, and sometimes they recover fully, sometimes they don't, and Mariano was one of the, I would say maybe 5-10% of patients that actually made it through. So.
What was he like when you first saw him there?
He was very thin and having issues breathing. And I kept encouraging him. We would talk every day. We really hit it off. There's pretty good chemistry. I worked in motion pictures too, and so we had a lot in common. And I was able to really encourage him, because that's what he needed. And knowing, if you've ever experienced not being able to breathe on your own, that's pretty scary, but he fought through it.
So then when you were, you don't remember, obviously, you were sedated or in a coma. So what's the very first things you remember of coming out of that? Did you see her face the first time you opened your eyes, or was it, what did you see? Do you even remember that?
I kind of remember the nurse, and then I remembered my wife. I just remember bits and pieces. She was praying for me. And
what did you think when you first saw him?
It's just just a normal patient that comes in when they get admitted, and after the evaluation, they let us know what the outcome is, what the potential is for the patient, if the patient's requiring rehabilitation, physical therapy, that includes with range of motion, also with out of bed mobility. So when Mariano came in, he was only just for range of motion until he was actually cleared, because he was on a ventilation. Once he was actually cleared for out of bed mobility, so we ended up getting up into a cardiac chair. Cardiac chair was for helping him with his ventilation, because he was on a trach, and being in a cardiac chair helps him sit up more, early mobility, help him with the trunk control. That was part of his treatment.
Where it shifted, that you thought he was gonna survive, and then he went to this recovery that all these people, and that he got all these friends from there, and his personality started shining again, right? And
yes.
And everyone became his friend, which doesn't happen to probably anybody else,
Probably not. Only my husband. Yes. So yes, once he was transferred to the long-term care facility, it took about 3 months to actually get him off of the vent. At that point, 3 or 4 months. So once he actually started waking up, and we had glimmers of hope that he would recover, the physical therapists were amazing. The nurses, the ICU nurses are something special. All the nurses there, the staff, the speech therapists, the physical therapists, the respiratory therapists are amazing. They all flocked to my husband. Everyone loves my husband. And once he started coming to, and they could see what a really unique person he was, they became our friends, a lot of them, which is really a very special thing. And they knew who my husband was. I put pictures up and I talked about him. I wanted them to know the background, so they have something to talk about with him. Come on, big dog, you can do this. You're going to get back to the gym. You want them to know that the person, not just the body, right? That the patient lying there, this is a real life in the hospital. So, it's really amazing how much they cared, and I don't know, seemed to just really love my husband. So that was really cool.
Let's talk about the food thing.
Okay, so it was really kind of interesting. I knew we were getting better because we started getting food from outside. We were bringing in the contraband. So we were ordering the pizza and the Mexican food, and it was just remarkable. And Dawn, his wife, was just Johnny on the spot. She would bring us food. And Al, what do you want? He'd say across the room. I'd say, whatever. So she would bring us food, and yeah, it was great. We'd go into the dining room, and everyone's eating hospital food, and here we are pigging out on really good stuff.
And then you were saying that you both had good attitudes, right? That his good attitude was infectious to you?
Yeah, yes, it was an. Oops, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So that's what I was going to ask you.
Yes, it was very encouraging to me, an encouragement to me, in that here I was encouraging this guy who was really struggling, and then when he saw me struggling, he started encouraging me, and then to see him every day going to physical therapy and doing it, and I was going through it too, but to see him, it just inspired me to just keep pressing forward, and he kept telling me, Alan, just keep pressing, man. You'll do it. You'll get there. You know.
Based on how he's doing now, he's a very slow recovery, but he is making really good progress, I feel. So I think he has a really good chance at making a full recovery. He's come this far. I mean, we really won't know for another, I would say, 6 months to see where he's really going to be, because he's only been out of the hospital for 3 months. So I think it's going to take another 5 or 6 months to really see where he's going to get. But I think he's going to end up doing really well. I'm hopeful, and I'm grateful that he's alive and well, and I'll take it, you know. But I know he wants to do better than he's doing, but I just have faith that, you know, God can perform miracles, because he's performed a miracle so far, because he's still with us, and he's beat the odds, and he's doing so well now. He's eating, walking, breathing, talking on his own, doing all these things, and you know, he's making progress, he's making gains. So I'm hopeful that you know, he will do better.
Do you deal with a lot of COVID patients right now?
At the moment, no, but during the height of COVID, we did have quite a few. We had a whole ward set up just for COVID patients, and you know, we ran the gambit of the severity of a lot of our COVID patients, and you know, we did see some pass away, and fortunately a lot go home and make mostly a full recovery.
So some passed away when they were in your care, even?
Yes.
Like they were.
Oh yes, yeah. You know, some were older. Even, you know, some of the younger ones that, you know, you thought would have made it through pretty quickly, weren't able to come through.
Wow.
So now the relationship between me and Mariano is really great. It's more than a friendship. We keep in touch. His wife keeps me updated on all his exercises, his progress. I've seen some of his Instagram, and I couldn't believe that he was actually kicking a punching bag, and you know, it was great seeing him do that. But at the same time, too, it was a little bit heartbreaking, because I want him to be where he was actually, how he was in the beginning. You know, big guy, and you know, very strong. But you know what? This actually made him stronger after recovering. This is such a blessing for not just, you know, him, but for his whole entire family to, you know, to see him get through this.
Jaime was the one that I remembered first when I woke up. They were trying to get me out of the bed. I was falling down. I couldn't barely stand up. I looked like a struggling, starving Ethiopian. I was so bony and sucked in, and my wife wouldn't show me pictures because she knows I would have been real depressed. And Fernando, he was a big part of my recovery. So Mariano, you can do this. When I had hard times breathing, take a deep breath, Mariano. You can do this. Take your time, take your time. And he had so much patience with me. And I would put on some music, and the nurses, May and a couple other nurses and my wife remembered, they were inspirational. They were taking care of me. And St. Jude, Kindred, really, that's where I got my recovery, and that's where I met all these amazing people that were in the hospital with me. They brought me food. They did things for me. I'm a naturally motivated person. I'm a big mouth. but I always like to speak the truth with love, and I always like to encourage other people. And I'm not selfish. I've never been selfish, just because of the way I grew up with nothing and being poor and all these things. But yeah, all of them were a part of me recovering. Fernando, Alan was my roommate. In the last 3 weeks of my recovery, he was doing Bible study. He encouraged me. We prayed together. And he saw me when I was going through a hard time, just taking a shower. And, you know, he encouraged me, and just God put many good people in my life. And
yeah.
What do you think that it came from a lab, or do you think it came from a wet market? What do you think about the whole COVID thing?
I tend to believe that it came from a wet market. You know, like I've seen documentaries on how you know they handle the wet markets there, and how all the animals are mixed together, and you know how easily something can spread like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I wouldn't doubt that it could have come from a lab, but I tend to believe that it did come from a wet market.
Right.
Yeah, and you have a lot of people in really close proximity in those areas, so you know it's easy to spread anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, and then tell us about some of the movies you've been in and how you got into acting.
I have about 133 credits in IMDb. Feature roles, speaking roles, co-starring roles. I've worked on most of the TV shows, the NCISs, The Mentalist, Malcolm in the Middle, Entourage, Eastbound and Down. I was a season regular in that with Danny McBride and Will Ferrell. I've been in the front cover of 9 movies. My face is in the movie, the cover of the movie. I've been in video games. I was featured in Xbox, PlayStation, UFC, MMA, Mad Max, many things. And I actually, my biggest audition was Black Panther. I actually made the final cut, but I didn't get the part, but that was a really big deal.
Though they're not ours, but now their Sachicharo has died. I, Kadamil, the leader of the Lakundan tribe, wish to challenge you for the throne.
Been blessed to work with Danny Trejo, the most famous Hispanic actor in Hollywood, Eric Roberts, the king of movies. He's done everything. Julia Roberts' brother. I've done 6 movies with each of them, and hopefully I can get back to that once I'm off the oxygen and get back to Big Dog.
And then a message to anybody watching about this whole thing?
Yeah, I just hope when people watch us, it gives them hope, and that they believe that anything is possible and not to give up.
God willing, I'll get back to a semi-normal life soon. I'm praying, and I still have my moments where I get anxiety and I have a hard time breathing, but I am getting way better. I can walk around the complex where I live at. I'm doing 30 minutes on the life cycle, which is incredible. I'm doing light weights. I used to be very muscular. I was Big Dog. Before I was in the gym, I was a gym rat. Now it's like I can't train the way I used to. I'm just, if I can do 1 exercise or 2, that's a blessing. I don't take life for granted. I take the little things. I don't take that for granted. I don't take being able to take a shower without passing out or getting tired. I don't take walking around the block. I don't take eating food. I don't take nothing for granted anymore, because when you have 8 months of being in the worst condition possible, it shakes your life, and it wakes you up, and it makes you think what really matters in life. And what matters is serving the Lord and really saying, Lord, what is this life really about? And there's a purpose behind me of being alive, and I hope this can change lives, give hope.
Anything is possible. Just believe, don't give up, fight hard, advocate hard, and just know that if you're going through something really, really hard, whether you're the spouse watching the loved one or the loved one actually waking up and recovering, that there is hope. So I just hope that it gives somebody hope, that they can get through this in those really excruciating, painful moments, because it is very difficult, but you know, you just don't know how things are going to turn out. So, you know, miracles do happen.
I'm kind of broken in regards to the politics of COVID. I did not want to get vaccinated, and the doctor said, well, you should get vaccinated because you might not make it if you get it again. But I said I had herd immunity. I got COVID. That almost killed me. And I'm just still a little bit up in regards to the vaccine and all those things, because now I got family and friends that got vaccinated. One of my nephews never had problems, 33 years old. Now he went to the emergency. What's wrong with me? Couldn't breathe. The doctor goes, guess what? You have a heart problem. And the doctor mentioned, you might have got it from the vaccine. And that's not the first story of my family. There's other family members. My daughter, she has breathing issues after the vaccine. So it kind of sucks because we're still learning, and even the experts don't know this really well. And it is scary what's going on out there. We don't know what are the long-term effects of the vaccine. But I say, Lord, our pastor says, put God first, leave it in his hands. He goes, if COVID's going to take you, then that's what's going to take your life. But only God is in control. He knows what's going to take your life. And I said, Lord, if it's COVID, then I guess that's your will. But I want to keep on living. As long as you can give me breath and life, I want to be a fighter. I grew up, I have a documentary, how I grew up in foster homes and boys' homes. I was abused since the age of 9. And those are just all the other bad things. And Lord, why is this happening to me? What did I do? Did I make you mad? Did I do something? And I just was questioning God. And I just learned, man, don't complain. Be thankful. And it's not about money. I've worked with many rich people. I worked with many successful people. And money is not everything. Honestly, true happiness is with God, your family, and just being healthy. It's priceless. You can't put a price on health. You could be the richest man in the world and you can die of something. You know, we're all going to pass. The Lord's going to take us one way or another. But if you can live long and do and have a purpose in this life and find what your purpose is, because God has a purpose for everybody. And it doesn't matter if you're the homeless guy, if you're the crackhead. I just learned that, you know, he has a plan and a purpose, and I'm a living miracle. So that's my story.
Mariano Mendoza, the mighty muscle man, the great fighter, the great movie star, greater than Danny Trejo. Man, I've known you through so much, brother. You're a powerful brother in the Lord. You're a mighty man of God. You got a beautiful wife. I did your wedding. I got to be part of your life. But greater than that is back in 2022. I mean, talk about FOMO, fear of missing out. You missed out on the whole year. Plus, you weren't expected to live. Man, I couldn't even go visit you. Your wife couldn't visit you for a while. We thought you were going to be in heaven. But what a comeback. God's not finished with you yet, Mariano. You got so much more blessing to do with people on planet Earth. So I just want to congratulate you. I lift my hands up to you. I praise you as another brother in the Lord. Stay high on Jesus. Keep on doing what you're doing. This world needs you, Mariano. We love you.
Amazing, amazing.
You're a blessing,
Yeah.
I've just been busy with life, dude. It seems like every time you call, I get something going on. Dude, you're doing good. You're doing good. Look at you. You're twice the man you used to be.
He gets emotional.
Yeah, that was Richard. He was one of the nurses that took care of me.
Yeah.
He gave me my first bath.
Happy for you to see you around like this, you know.
I remember you, man. You took care of me.
Yeah, I see you out on the floor.
Without these guys, I wouldn't be around, man. He's good.
You're looking good.
Yeah.
Look at you, living miracle. I didn't realize what time it was.
Wow, you're a big guy now. Wow, you're such a big guy, dog. I know. That's what I said. I realized.
Going to the gym. I actually see you. I was complaining about my food because I was thinking some food.
What are you feeding him? Don't give him anymore.
Thank you guys for everything, for saving my life.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Jeez, look at this.
I know.
That's what I said.
Thank you.
God is good.
Yes, amen.
Love and supporting your family. I know.
Are you acting again?
I just did my first movie 2 months ago. I was looked out from I always pray for me. I'm so grateful. No, so you can keep on doing it. Come on, I'm getting stronger.
He's the only guy strong enough to move it. He can pick him up himself. Where's Jaime? We should go into the gym.
Yeah,
we're all here.
right there, you guys.
We'll go in the gym.
This is where you're going to go down.
Here, that way we can get our mask off and we get a good picture.
Yeah.
Every day.